Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and when I'm not being seamlessly replaced by Danielle Harris, I'm here at the Wolfula reviewing movies. I'm back from my brief stint at my ancestral home, Castle Wolfula, to continue reviewing the Hatchet series. So far, I've reviewed the first Hatchet movie, and there are 4, so I got a ways to go, but let's do Hatchet 2 now. Released in 2010 and directed by Adam Green. My only preface to this RiffView is that I had never seen any of the Hatchet sequels before, so you're gonna be hearing my sizzling hot takes on the rest of the series. I'll state up front, though, that I did enjoy Hatchet 2 more than the original film's first outing with Victor Crowley, and I'll explain why in this RiffView. Hatchet 2 makes the bold choice of pulling a Halloween 2, carrying on the moment the last movie left off, literally the exact moment, except this movie doesn't offer any context like Halloween 2 did, so if your memory watching the first Hatchet was hazy in the 4 years that passed after the cliffhanger, well, pretty much go fuck yourself and watch the first movie again, asshole. Honestly, the continuity between Hatchet 1 and 2 is off from the very first shot, though. Victor Crowley loses his foggy right eye between films, so you can't even seamlessly edit these movies together. Of course, there's an even bigger retcon established in Hatchet 2. Mary Beth, the sorta protagonist of the first movie, was recast, Tamara Feldman being replaced by Danielle Harris because Feldman supposedly asked for too much money. But luckily, Danielle Harris has decades of experience being paid like shit by horror movie productions. She's used to getting jerked around for her paycheck. I'll never complain about Jamie Lee Curtis looking different in Halloween 2 again. Anyway, Mary Beth is rescued by Jack Cracker, the crazy old man who lives in the swamp and drinks his own piss, played by the late John Carl Buechler.
Let me guess. You don't believe in ghosts.
I should mention that back at Jack Cracker's shack, he offers Mary Beth a bottle of mysterious yellow liquid that she drinks without pause, even though she was told in the previous movie that he drinks his own piss.
And that's just Jack Cracker, drinks his own piss.
If I was told somebody drank their own piss, it would surely be the one thing I'd remember about them and be careful about.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Jack Cracker at first is very helpful to Mary Beth. Well, actually, he's not helpful at all.
What am I supposed to do?
Never come back this way again.
He just tells her to give up all hope of ever getting help from the police, getting revenge against Victor Crowley, or even just being able to retrieve the corpses left in the swamp, including her father's and brothers, but, you know, whatever. Jack Cracker's tone gets worse when he finds out who Mary Beth's dead dad was, and she's made to leave.
You knew my daddy?
No. But I know what your daddy did, and I want nothing to do with it.
And I kinda wish this scene ended here, because things get really weird when Jack Cracker decides to look at the video camera belonging to the dead fake porn producer Shapiro from the first movie.
I want my daddy to see this. Woo! Fuck you, Dad!
There's a clip of a fully nude girl who Shapiro was the teacher of in 5th grade.
You're my history teacher from 5th grade.
And there's another clip where Shapiro is desperately asking a 14-year-old girl to take her top off.
Dude, I'm 14!
Oh, that ain't right.
I know this is supposed to be dark humor, but it's just depressingly creepy.
Mister, leave me alone!
Come on, why don't you lift up that shirt? Let's see what you got going on under there.
Thankfully, the scene finally ends too late, with Victor Crowley tearing out Jack Cracker's intestines, turning him into a human yo-yo, and then strangling the dude with his own guts that are somehow strong enough to pop the guy's head off like he was a can of blood soda. This is some Mortal Kombat fatality shit. Now, if you plan to see this movie, I'm gonna warn you right now that the intro to the film features some really intense, rapidly flashing lights, which I'm not gonna show myself in this video because I don't want to give my epileptic fans seizures. I can't afford to have any more of my fans die. The opening credits end with a shot of Adam Green puking, which is honestly the most unsettling thing in this movie. The man truly did save the horror genre. Anyway, Mary Beth returns to the Big Easy to confront Reverend Zombie, played by Tony Todd, who is definitely the guy that I would go to first before the police.
All right, come here. Give me.
And Reverend Zombie is revealed to have been operating the tour boat from the first film illegally by proxy.
So I was forced to run tours out the back door of one of my other shops.
Mary Beth explains that all the tourists were killed by Victor Crowley in the haunted Forbidden Swamp, including Mary Beth's dear old dead dad, who Reverend Zombie knew personally.
Samson Dunstan's kid?
Yes.
So Reverend Zombie explains how Mary Beth's Robert Englund dad is connected to Kane Hodder's Victor Crowley, and the updated origin of Crowley is extra goofy with a side of silly. You see, Victor Crowley's dad, who is also played by Kane Hodder, had a dying wife, and she herself had a sexy nurse, and, well, while his wife was getting busy dying, Kane Hodder was just getting busy. Nothing gets me more rock hard than the thought of my wife dying 10 feet away. I mean, you are supposed to cry during sex, right? I know I always do.
The entire situation was nothing but sad and tragic.
Anywho, Kane Hodder's wife finally dies, the perfect time to get a little sugar. But then the dead wife comes back to life just to put a curse on the couple for all eternity, which is what all cancer victims are able to do, so you better watch your ass.
She put a curse on Thomas Crowley and his mistress, Nina.
Well, Kane Hodder and his side piece is unfazed by this turn of events, and the new Mrs. Hodder gives birth to his son, Victor Crowley, but Victor Crowley's own mother becomes his first victim just because he was so fucking ugly.
Some say she died the moment she laid eyes on her child.
This is what happens when Kane Hodder decides to get laid. Anyway, some kids burn Victor Crowley in his shack, yada yada yada, and Kane Hodder kills his own son accidentally. It's revealed though, and this is the actually important bit of info that affects the plot. Mary Beth's dad, Samson Dunstan, was one of the boys that was responsible for Victor Crowley's death, and Kane Hodder confronts the Dunstan household with a shotgun, and I'm kinda surprised the police weren't called.
You killed my son.
Technically you killed your son, man. If you had let him burn alive, they would have been the ones who killed him, but you technically killed him.
No one knows the body count.
What follows next is a quick montage of cool kills that are pretty much thrown in because Victor Crowley doesn't show up again in the movie until the 53-minute mark. I must also mention that Hatchet 2 is 81 minutes long without the end credits, and this is the fucking uncut version. So what happens in Hatchet 2 during the half hour spent before meeting Victor Crowley again for less than a half hour? Lots of exposition happens, that's what. Rob Zombie agrees to help Mary Beth get revenge against Crowley and retrieve the corpses of Mary Beth's family, but on the condition that Mary Beth bring along another family member of the uncle persuasion.
So if I bring my uncle back, then you will take us?
That's what I said.
Which isn't suspicious at all. Mary Beth's uncle is played by Tom Holland, not that kid who's in those shitty Spider-Man movies. The Tom Holland who directed Child's Play and Fright Night.
He's full of horseshit.
Tom Holland acting in this movie is kinda weird because he hasn't acted in a movie since Psycho 2 in 1983. But I guess in retrospect, having Tom Holland in your cast has probably led a lot of Marvel movie fans to watch Hatchet 2, only to witness true acting instead.
Over my dead body, or you going to that goddamn swamp? Now you listen to me, young lady.
Well, Uncle Bob is initially hesitant allowing Mary Beth to return to the swamp she almost died in the previous night, insisting they, you know, just go to the police, but Uncle Bob relents and decides to come along on the trip where he'll very obviously be brutally murdered.
Please, Uncle Bob.
All right, I'll be back in an hour.
The next scene is a gathering of hunters at Rob Zombie's voodoo shop, and you might be confused why that fake Cajun Asian dude who was killed in the last movie is still alive. Well, this is the twin brother of that dead guy, who is exactly the same, so it's like that guy never died at all. It was absolutely inconsequential.
Bonjour, monsieur. Welcome to the House of Voodoo.
Among the hunters in this scene is a biker-looking dude, Trent Graves, played by R.A. Mieloff, the actor who played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Incidentally, Kane Hodder also did the stunts on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, but more on this character later.
Drop the phony accent, asshole. I ain't no goddamn tourist.
This meeting that Rob Zombie has with the hunters is just frivolous, though. It's only 9 minutes, but it feels like it goes on for 20, and it takes forever to just get to the point.
Hey, man, what's the deal with the cookies? Is it just like one each, or can we get some more, or what's up?
Derailing things with a cookie bit that feels like it's straight out of a CBS sitcom.
Milk for cookies, man. Milk.
I do like the reference to Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, though.
When I was 8, I lived in this town called Glen Echo. Our ghost stories about this man named Leslie Vernon.
But that seems to imply that Victor Crowley is also probably just a thespian pretending to be a deformed serial killer.
What are we hunting?
Victor Crowley.
The actual point of this scene, though, is once the hunters know they have to take down Victor Crowley, a lot of them hightail it out of there, even Lloyd Kaufman, but the one guy that can't leave for some suspicious reason is Trent. Rob Zombie really needs that guy to be in the swamp too, along with Uncle Bob. Curiouser and curiouser.
Anything bad goes down, we leave.
All that really matters ultimately is that Rob Zombie assembles a task force unafraid of death who must face off against an unkillable force. They're a suicide squad, if you will. Night falls once the group actually arrives at their destination, which is a sign that they probably should have waited a day and done this first thing in the morning with some planning ahead of time instead of just, you know, doing all this on the fly, trying to find a shack in the woods at night.
How much further to the house?
What house?
I'm not exactly sure. This all looks the same to me.
Now you might be thinking, oh wow, all these hunters team up against one killer. That's pretty interesting, and the killer will likely face a serious challenge. This sequel will be really different from the first movie. But, not really. After 4 minutes, the hunters all split up, mostly just hanging out in isolated locations with their backs against the woods where somebody easily could jump them. You know, I do admire Adam Green, but his writing in this film makes the writing in an actual Friday the 13th movie seem layered and complex in comparison.
So, you supposed to stand around here all night?
Even though Crowley is up against armed men and women aware that he's in the woods, they prove to be about the same level of challenge to him as the characters in Hatchet, maybe even less of a challenge.
I see him. Shut the fuck up.
The first death is a subversion. Victor just hatchet whips the dude until his face looks like someone's toilet after going to Arby's. Then Crowley kills the other schmo who attempts to flee in the boat, shredding the guy's head up until it looks like what's left after eating a plate of ribs. Man, I am really hungry right now. Then there's the dude paired with the woman he's had an on-again, off-again relationship with. The movie goes into some detail about how she's actually a capable hunter, but she's only here so the movie can have a sex scene because nothing gets a chick hornier than knowing for a fact that there's a deranged killer lurking in the woods, just waiting to hear some moans, knowing there are some people getting their fuck on in his swamp. So anyway, there's a highly uncomfortable sex scene, of course, but the warm goo that lands on this chick's back isn't the kind she was expecting. But that doesn't stop her from getting a few more thrusts in where she can. The guy could really use some head right now, though. So it goes without saying that Victor Crowley stabs this woman in the taint with his hatchet. He's gonna need to clean that thing when he's done. She was probably filled with dead guy jizz. Victor Crowley should be warned, though. She's a squirter. The last pair of jackasses that get killed in the woods are Rick McCallum, producer of the Star Wars prequels, and a guy who makes me feel like he's doing an impression of Sinbad in Jingle All the Way.
Hey, man, I got an idea. Why don't we all just split up? Hey, better yet, let's just go skinny dipping.
The duo winds up confronted by Crowley, wielding an improbably large chainsaw. It seems like Victor is overcompensating for something. So it goes without saying again that Victor Crowley saws these dudes' balls off. In their taint. He's probably gonna need to clean that thing when he's done. Honestly, they were asking for it standing single file like that. Who does that? Now they look like Joe Pesci in that one episode of Tales from the Crypt. Alright, let's just talk about the finale already. Man, this was a short video. The main group, led by Rob Zombie, discovers Crowley's shack, but all the bodies seem to have vanished. That doesn't matter though. The Cajun Asian discovers the real reason Zombie organized this trip.
What did he say to you? I heard him say something about those two.
Supposedly, if Victor Crowley's ghost finally kills the 3 kids responsible for his death, his spirit can finally rest and the curse of the swamp will be lifted, allowing Zombie to continue doing business in the area.
He seems to think that Trent and that guy with you, your uncle.
Mary Beth's dad was just one of the kids that burned Crowley. The other 2 are Uncle Bob and Trent. And after Victor returns to his shack to have his way with the Cajun Asian's brains via belt sander, his attention switches to Trent. Kane, Hoda, and R.A. Mieloff release some of their old tensions from the set of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. It's like he's cracking open a bottle of champagne. Savage as fuck! Victor finally faces off against his one true nemesis, Uncle Bob, who surely will put up quite the challenge on his own. Or not.
Swamp is mine.
You're a murderer!
After stating the obvious, Mary Beth reveals her ace in the hole. Uncle Bob was just her dad's best friend, not her real uncle.
Bob was my daddy's best friend.
Mary Beth's real dad died of cancer, and probably also cursed a swamp or something too.
My daddy's brother died from leukemia when I was 12.
Which means it's Candyman versus not Jason Voorhees. Place your bets. Who will win? Alright, definitely not that guy. Certainly not that guy. Dear Lord. What, was Adam Green playing Mortal Kombat for inspiration with these kills? After Crowley tosses Rob Zombie's corpse like a cheap lawn decoration from Spirit Halloween, it's Mary Beth's turn to fail at killing him, making Victor look even more messed up with his own hatchet. And for good measure, she blows his head goo off.
Fuck you!
And that's it. Yeah, these movies really like to end abruptly. Hatchet 2 is a cookie-cutter sequel, but there are some better kills in it than the first, and I appreciate having a lot more Tony Todd in it, even if he isn't used to his fullest ability, and I also like Danielle Harris as Mary Beth. The sequel gets the job done as a straightforward, no-frills slasher movie. I give Hatchet 2 a Kane Hodder stabbing a woman in the vagina out of Kane Hodder stabbing a woman in the vagina. I'll be starting work on October soon, so I may or may not put RiffViews of the next two Hatchet sequels on hold. We'll see how I do timeline-wise, I guess. This video is made possible through the pledges of my Patreon supporters, and I'd like to give a very special thanks to the kind folks pledged to my shoutouts tier. All of the support on Patreon means a lot to me, and it helps my dark influence continue to grow. If you like this video, like it, and if you loved it, click the subscribe and bell buttons for more vids. Be sure to also keep in touch by following me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Wolfula. While I still have your attention, consider pledging to my Patreon to support the channel and get bonus content like previews, VIP Discord server access, private movie night streams, and credits in videos. Consider pledging at patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula. Also, check out official Dr. Wolfula t-shirts and other merch on tpublic.com/user/Dr. Wolfula. Thanks for watching. See you all next time. Dr. Wolfula signing out.